Welcome back. To change the game, you have to be in the game. And of course, for elite athletes, the #1 goal is to win. And if you have to change your own game in order to be the very best you can and to win, then perhaps that's a given. But there are a lot of games that are considered in this next film, and many of them are literally life and death. When you rush into a burning building without any hyperbole at all, you need to be a game changer. A plant-based diet is not only about personal health, but it's also about the health of the planet Earth. I am here with the filmmakers who have brought the game changers to Sundance, Louie Psihoyos and James Wilks. Good morning, fellows. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having us, Terry. Appreciate it.
James, you're the genesis of this story, and you're part of a storyline of many athletes who are included in the film who have found that a plant-based approach to optimizing performance really is optimization.
Right, and it's totally the opposite that I would have thought, before sort of going into this journey. Totally wouldn't have thought that an athlete could not even perform at all on a plant-based diet without meat, milk, and eggs, and those are the sorts of things that I thought you needed to be an athlete.
And as is discussed at the beginning of the film, where do you get your protein? How do you get your protein? You're going to be anemic. You're going to have all of these problems. Right. And of course, the consideration of marketing versus science is really at the heart of this. Talk about kind of your gradual emerging into, I'm getting into this.
Yeah, I mean, so I train, elite government agencies, the Navy SEALs, US Marshals, and so forth. And I also fought in the UFC. I ended up getting injured sparring with one of the future heavyweight champions. And, I had about 6 months where I thought, well, what can I do best with my time? So I thought, well, the most productive thing would be to research diet for optimal recovery and performance. And basically came across a study about the Roman gladiators. The only known gladiator burial site in the world is in Ephesus, Turkey. There were 68 full gladiator skeletons. They unearthed the bones and basically did a strontium-calcium analysis and a radioisotope analysis, and they could tell that they were eating almost exclusively plants, which totally shocked me. I mean, I remember shortly before that walking into a restaurant and the chicken was spelt funny, and I said, why is the chicken spelt funny? Well, it's made of plants. And it turned out the restaurant was a vegan restaurant. And of course, I quickly turned around and left because I thought, I'm an athlete, I've got to get protein.
This is not for me.
Not for me at all. But so that sort of confused and shocked me a little bit. They also could tell based on the bone density and the muscle attachments, they were very strong. And of course, the gladiators, they were the original fighters, right? So basically, I started researching more and more, and the more I uncovered, the more I realized I'd been lied to, by the marketing machine. So this sort of old notion that we need meat or any other animal products for protein, completely not true.
And there's a moment in the film where, with the rope, you determined unequivocally that your performance was being enhanced by making this change.
Yeah, so not only the science that I read, but also, once I sort of started this experiment, I thought, well, I'll give it a try. I was meeting all of these experts, including department chairs at Oxford and Harvard and so forth, and also meeting all of these elite athletes at the top of their game. In some sports, there was a far greater percentage of athletes who were eating a completely vegan diet, far greater than the general population percentage-wise, which sort of indicated something in itself. And they were all talking how they were getting better recovery, faster, better improved blood flow, which means more oxygen, more nutrients to the muscles. So I thought I'd give it a try. And one of the experiments I did, we often do this battling ropes. It's a 50-foot shipping rope, and at the gym that I was at, if you got 10 minutes, you got your name on the wall, and there was a few people that got 20 minutes. And even at the peak of my conditioning training for UFC fights, I'd only got 8 minutes. Well, 6 weeks after into my plant-based experiment, I ended up going an hour straight. My hands were bleeding, blisters, and so forth. And I really felt like I could have kept going, but people wanted to leave the gym, so I cut it off just after the hour mark. So just incredible, personal experience as well.
And I have to imagine that experiences like that had to be a catalyst for I have a story to tell. It's not just about improving my own performance, but I have to become a storyteller, a narrator on this specific subject.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, originally when I thought about the project, I thought, well, I've got to, you know, I hate being lied to, and I feel like the industry is being lying to me, and you know, we're sort of led to believe this even from when, you know, my parents, when I was very young, eat your meat, you know, fuel that furnace, big and strong. And it's just sort of in our culture that we need to eat meat to be big and strong. And so when I came across this, I thought, I woke up at 2 in the morning one day and I got to make a documentary about this. But originally I didn't want to be in the film. I just wanted to sort of showcase these athletes and these experts. But you know, once I met Louie and Joseph Pace, the other producer who's played a pivotal role, and Mark Monroe, our writer, they thought, no, really, we should follow your journey. And so, you know, very thankful to Louie for sort of generating that storyline.
Louie, with your track record and success in documentary storytelling, I'm sure that there are a lot of mutual exclusivities in terms of stories that you would like to tell, but you have to make a decision. Talk about what it was like for you to hear this pitch from James, and based on your previous experience, what was your decision process like?
Yeah, you know, all the films I make are mission-based. The Cove, Racing Extinction, we're trying to not just create awareness, we're trying to, you know, create action to solve a problem. And the biggest problem in the world is probably, you know, to me, is climate change, the species extinction. And the one way that to solve it is by changing what people eat. Because, you know, most of the 15% of the greenhouse gases is caused by raising food for animals that we're in turn going to eat, responsible for 3/4 of all the agricultural land in the world.
Staggering numbers.
Half the water in the United States is used to feed, you know, to feed those animals. Pollution, massive amounts of pollution, 130 times more the waste, the excrement, than all of humanity combined. I mean, if you want to, you know, save the oceans, save the climates, and save the world, change what you're eating 3 times a day. You can do that. And this is, and I started thinking, well, this is the aha moment. You need to have some actionable items. You can't just say that, hey, you know, you're not compassionate enough. You should be doing this. This is actually an upgrade. Every time we looked at this and say, well, you know, you always think you have to give up something. You know, you have to turn down the thermostat and put on some scratchy clothes or something. But this is better for you. It's not better. It's not just better for athletes. It's better for, you know, people our age. You know, why talk about what happened with your dad in the middle of filming? That was an amazing moment.
In the middle of filming, of course, my sort of goal originally was optimal performance and recovery from my injuries. But in the middle of filming, unfortunately, my dad had a heart attack. Had emergency surgery with 2 stents put in, and I started then thinking, well, there's something bigger to this. We did an experiment with the Miami Dolphins and Dr. Robert Vogel, who's the co-chair of the cardiovascular committee for the NFL, and he showed how there was a significantly improved blood flow for 2 to 8 hours after a meal if you ate a plant-based meal versus an animal-based meal. And he's been showing these studies for about 20 years. We did it with the Miami Dolphins, and so I started thinking, you know, if a single meal can impact blood flow, you know, in such a short period of time, what could a lifetime of eating have done to my dad's heart? And so then I started really looking more into the health aspects, and it turns out that, you know, the major chronic diseases, heart disease in particular, but also cancer and diabetes, are all significantly impacted by what we eat. And so there's a growing stakes. It started with, you know, this sort of quite selfish journey really of personal performance and recovery, and then, you know, the health of my father, and thinking of just the health of the population of the world, and then even, you know, further growing out stakes, finding out about the environment and what we're doing. You know, all those numbers that Louie was just stating right now. So it's really hitting a number of things, and like Louie says, it's an upgrade. Improved performance, improved health, feel better, more energy.
Sexual function?
And sexual function as well.
So wait, talk about that for a second, because this is the highlight. This is the heart of the film to me. It's like, you can say, I'm not an athlete. I don't care about, you know, optimal performance. I'm 25 years old. I don't care about, you know, I'm gonna live forever. But
yeah, so you know, having done the experiment with the Miami Dolphins, you know, the arteries to the penis are the smallest in the body. So we were speaking with Dr. Aaron Spitz, who's the lead delegate of urology for the American Medical Association, And I said, well, if blood flow is really being affected there, would it affect erections? And he said, well, it certainly would, but it's never been tested. So for the first time ever, there's a device called the Rigiscan, which tests erectile, both the duration of the erections and also the rigidity of the erections. And so we have a scene in the film where we actually put some college athletes on a plant-based burrito one night and a meat-based burrito the other night, and there's significant changes in both rigidity and circumference in the erection, and also the duration, which is pretty incredible. And so that's probably going to hit a lot of guys, where it counts. And so significant. I don't want to give all the details away because people should go and see the film and see all the details. But it's pretty impactful.
It feels like masculinity in this case is kind of a window into human psychology, not just physiology, but human psychology, which really, whether you're zooming in to talk about your father, your relationship with your father, questions of mortality, but also questions of mortality for planet Earth, that human psychology is the window or the door that's opaque or transparent by turns that we're having to address now before things, as you say, become even worse. How did the two of you feel coming out of the process? Here you are for the first time really stepping out and discussing the film, and you're going to be discussing it all week long. Do you have a different feeling from the journey of making the film we always imagine that you changed by making a film, Louie, in your experience?
Well, I mean, they say that when you're done making a film, you're only halfway there, especially with the documentary. And now we know the science, we know the anecdotal evidence, we know it's extremely strong. And now you have to get people to see the film. So it's like this is the incubation process. You're launching this into the world, and it's a game-changing idea. I mean, it's no joke. People are going to be, if you're a guy thinking that, you just tell a guy that they shouldn't be eating meat, and they're going to, all these hackles are going to be going up. They're going to be going up against, this is what my grandmother fed me, this is what I've been taught, this is what culture tells me, this is what the the NFL players did, be big and strong, and we're throwing that concept on its face, flat on the ground. So people, I don't know how this film's going to be, people are going to respond, guys are going to respond to it, but we've been doing test audiences and they're shocked. People are really shocked by what they see because this goes at this core myth. And one thing we should talk about, James, is the backfire effect. I'll start it off, but like when guys are given a concept that goes against their core belief, sometimes they'll double down what's called the backfire effect. And so, James and his other producer Joseph have spent about a year looking at, okay, how can we make a craft of film so we can address the psychology? And that's one reason that we're using athletes, is because you need these aspirational athletes to deliver the message. Because if a typical vegan does it with purple hair and a nose ring and doing it for ethics, a guy will go, well, he said, you might be right, but I don't want to look like you. Sure. But when you have the strongest guy in the world, or James Lightning Wilks, who trains Navy SEALs, or Scott Jurek, who's the most accomplished ultra runner in the world, running the Appalachian Trail for 46 days of 2 marathons a day through 11,000 feet of up and down every day, and he does it on a plant-based diet, you start to listen, and this is what we do. We use a guy that's in charge of the founder of the International Anti-Poaching Foundation to deliver these messages. These are like guys delivering the messages.
Yes,
these aren't,
indeed.
Yeah, and what we're seeing all around the country right now, all around the world, is that these top athletes are now adopting. We're at the very beginning of this phase, I think, where Kylie, the basketball player, he just did a Nike ad saying that this, the most successful season ever, plant-based diet. Lewis Hamilton, Formula One driver, probably going to be top. The previous one, plant-based diet. Serena Williams. The list goes on. Was it the Titans? The defensive line of the Titans is mostly plant-based now. They're all finding it's better for recovery, but you need these game-changing athletes or
iconic
doctors,
figures.
Yeah.
To deliver the message, and that's what they did. We went right to the top of everything we did. We didn't want to have like just a doctor that sort of was sympathetic to this idea. We went to, like James said, Oxford, Yale, Harvard, and it was overwhelming evidence. And what we found is that why isn't this message out there? And it's because you have a multi-billion, probably trillion-dollar enterprise, pharmaceutical industry. You know, they don't want to have healthy people. They want to sell statins and, you know,
stents
to everybody on the planet, and they're just, you know, they don't want us healthy. It's the same thing with the meat industry. They don't necessarily want you eating plants and vegetables. You know, if you look at the funding in America that's given to plants, to healthy plants and vegetables, the foods that's going to make your kids strong and healthy and live longer, that's, you know, what's the percentage? Like less than 1% of the budget for agriculture goes to you know, to veggies and stuff that will keep you alive. The other stuff goes to stuff that's going to kill you.
And in the end, it comes back to self-determination. You must make these decisions for yourself. You can affect through filmmaking and through gaining the support of the top, the Louie Psihoyos of the world, that we have to get this message out.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I would love to continue our conversation. I know that you have many obligations, and we're grateful for the time that you've given us. When are your screenings happening?
Well, the premiere is today, Friday at 3:30 p.m. And then we have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then I believe the following Saturday as well. And all the times are on the website, GameChangersMovie.com.
Yeah, the film's called The Game Changers.
GameChangersMovie.com. Lightning Wilks.
Thanks so much, Terry.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you. Louie, so nice to see you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the passion that you've put into this project. It really is the most sincere of missions to be on, and we're grateful for your time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
The Game Changers, GameChangersMovie.com. A plant-based diet can change so very many things for you personally and for planet Earth. Make sure to include it in your screening plans.